Please video like and subscribe this channel. No alarm in the Galactic Palace had ever screamed like this before. The crystal spires of Aurelian Prime, capital of the Varelian Empire, glowed red as emergency sigils ignited across the city. Guards poured into the palace corridors, claws clicking against obsidian floors, wings snapping open in agitation. Courtiers whispered prayers to ancient stars. The reason was unthinkable. The twin princesses, Lyra and Selene, only daughters of Queen Zythera, were missing. They had vanished from their guarded chambers sometime during the third watch, slipping past biometric locks, psychic wards, and a dozen elite sentinels sworn to die before allowing harm to come to them. No signs of forced entry. No trace of abduction. Just two empty beds and silence where royal heartbeats should have been. Queen Zythera stood in the throne chamber, her towering form rigid with controlled fury. Her iridescent eyes swept across the kneeling council. "Find them," she commanded, her voice echoing like thunder through a vacuum. "Search every wing, every ship, every world if you must." The Varelian Empire had enemies, many of them. But one truth chilled the court more than any invasion. If the princesses had been taken, war would follow. And if they were dead? No one finished that thought. The human. Ethan Hale had been asleep when the guards burst into his quarters. He woke to plasma blades humming inches from his face, alien soldiers shouting in a language he barely understood. His room, small, utilitarian, assigned to him as part of his role as a human systems engineer, was suddenly full of wings, armor, and glowing eyes. "What's going on?" he demanded, hands raised instinctively. "You will not move, human," one guard hissed. "You are under suspicion of royal crime." Ethan blinked in disbelief. He'd been stationed on Aurelian Prime for 6 months, helping modernize ancient infrastructure that even Varelian engineers no longer fully understood. He was tolerated, not trusted, but never threatened like this. Before he could protest, the guards froze. Slowly, every weapon lowered. Ethan followed their gaze toward his bed. 2 figures lay curled beside him, wrapped in silken royal cloaks, breathing softly. Lyra and Selene. The missing princesses. Asleep. Panic and silence. The chamber went dead quiet. No one spoke. No one breathed. The twin princesses were unmistakable, luminescent skin patterned with living constellations, faint biolight pulsing in rhythm with their hearts. Lyra's hand rested loosely on Ethan's arm. Selene's wings were folded protectively around all 3 of them. The guards backed away as if facing a starborn phenomenon. This is impossible," one whispered. Within minutes, Queen Zythera herself arrived. She stopped at the threshold, eyes locking onto the scene before her. Her daughters. Alive. Unharmed. Sleeping beside a human. Ethan slowly sat up, terrified of disturbing them. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, unsure whether he was about to be executed or vaporized. "I swear, I don't know how they." Selene stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing softly as they focused on the room, then on her mother. "Mother," she murmured sleepily. "Please don't shout." Ethan said loud voices scare humans. The silence deepened. Queen Zythera's expression shifted from rage to confusion to something dangerously close to fear. "Why," she asked slowly, "are you in his chamber?" Lyra yawned and stretched, wings unfurling. "Because he feels safe." The bond. The princesses were escorted gently back to the throne chamber, Ethan flanked by guards but no longer restrained. The court gathered, buzzing with theories and accusations. Queen Zythera demanded answers. Lyra stepped forward first. "We did not mean to cause alarm. We followed the pull." "The pull?" a counselor scoffed. "There is no such." Selene silenced him with a glance. "There is. You simply forgot." The twins explained. 4 generations, Varelian royalty had been born with heightened empathic sensitivity. They could sense emotional currents in others, fear, loyalty, malice. It was how queens judged allies and enemies. But the twins possessed something rarer. They could sense voids. Places where pain had been carried quietly, where suffering had been endured without hatred. They felt it the moment Ethan arrived on Aurelian Prime. He is calm, Lyra said, searching for the right word. But not empty. His mind is full of storms he keeps contained. Ethan swallowed. Selene continued, we followed that calm through the palace. When we were near him, the noise inside us stopped. The court erupted in murmurs. Queen Zythera raised a clawed hand. You entered his chamber without consent. Selene shook her head. We knocked. He invited us in. Ethan nodded weakly. They said they couldn't sleep. I made tea. We talked. About what? The Queen asked sharply. Ethan hesitated, then answered honestly. About home. About loss. The Queen's gaze sharpened. Explain. The human truth. Ethan spoke of Earth. Of wars fought far from palaces. Of families lost not to enemies, but to time and neglect. He spoke of surviving not heroically, not triumphantly, but quietly. I don't carry power, he said. I carry responsibility. Someone always had to keep things running after the fighting stopped. The Varelians listened, unsettled. Their empire revered strength, dominance, spectacle. Suffering was either glorified or erased. Human endurance confused them. Selene stepped closer to Ethan. He did not try to impress us. He did not fear us. He simply listened. Lyra nodded. When we slept, the nightmares stopped. The chamber went still. Queen Zythera slowly descended from her throne. She stood before Ethan, towering over him. Human, she said, do you understand the danger you represent? Ethan met her gaze. No, Your Majesty. But I never meant harm. She studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to her daughters. You risked your lives. Selene responded calmly. No. We learned why they matter. Judgment. The council demanded punishment. Some accused Ethan of manipulation. Others feared precedent, what it meant if royalty sought comfort outside their species. Queen Zythera listened. Then she spoke. Centuries ago, she said, our empire nearly collapsed, not from war, but from exhaustion. From carrying our grief alone. She looked at her daughters. If this human offers what we have forgotten, then he is not a threat. She turned to Ethan. You will remain on Aurelian Prime, she decreed. Not as a prisoner. As a guardian of quiet. Gasps rippled through the hall. You will advise my daughters, the Queen continued. Not in war. Not in politics. In balance. Ethan stared. I don't think I'm qualified. Queen Zythera allowed herself a faint, rare smile. Neither were we, once. A changed empire. In the cycles that followed, the palace changed. The princesses visited Ethan often, sometimes to talk, sometimes simply to sit in silence. Word spread of the human whose presence calmed royal storms. Diplomats noticed shifts in negotiations. Decisions were slower, more deliberate. Less blood was spilled. Other species took note. Humans, once dismissed as fragile, were suddenly regarded with curiosity. Not because of their weapons. Because of their resilience. The night remembered. Months later, Ethan lay awake in his quarters, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. A soft knock sounded. Lyra and Selene entered, carrying blankets. Is it acceptable, Lyra asked, if we sleep here tonight? Ethan smiled gently. Of course. They settled beside him, the galaxy humming beyond the walls. Far above, Queen Zythera watched the lights of Aurelian Prime and reflected on the night her daughters vanished and were found not lost, but protected. Not by force, but by understanding. And in that quiet human room, an empire learned that strength was not always loud. Sometimes, it simply stayed awake with you until the fear passed.